Yo, what is good and welcome back to my channel. So I've been playing Terraria for a few years now, but recently it has reached the point where I've become a little bit bored of it. Now, this does not at all mean that I want to stop playing Terraria or be playing it less, I still enjoy the game a lot. It is one of my favorites. I think it's a great sandbox game. It's great for creativity and adventure, but I feel like there's something missing. There's something more that I want to add to it. Now, of course, I'm not a game developer, so there's nothing that I know how to add, but what I mean is that I want to explore a different way of playing Terraria, which is going to be modded Terraria. Now, what better mod to play in Terraria, except for Calamity, than the Thorium mod? I mean, come on, this is going to be great. So, I don't know anything about the Thorium mod. That is why I'm going to make this video and do some research to tell you guys more about it and to find out more for myself. I'm just going to be discussing the few things that I see that are the most important things being added. And this is not at all an educational video. I'm not going to be teaching you guys how to play Thorium, or this is not a guide. It's just a fun video that I thought I could make and find out something new before I start playing the actual Thorium mod. So to give you a little bit of context, the Thorium mod is one of the biggest Vanilla Plus mods in Terraria. Now, what a Vanilla Plus mod means is that you're still playing the original game, except that new content is being added. So everything about the original game stays, but new content is being added, things like quality of life, new items and bosses, whatever. And the reason is to enhance your gameplay and to give you more of a variety of things to do. Now, the Thorium mod is definitely one of the most expansive Vanilla Plus mods for Terraria, since there are over 2,600 new items being added, 11 challenging new bosses, hordes of new enemies, and an entirely new biome is also added to the game. And I'm pretty sure that this new biome is called the Graveyard, and it is actually useful. You can do things in it. In any case, the biggest thing that Thorium adds to Terraria, except for the bosses, I would say, is the fact that there are 3 brand new classes that you get to play, which are the following. So first up, we get the Thrower class, which focuses on survival and damage and is less supportive of a team like the other 2 classes. Now, this includes 9 armor sets, 18 accessories, 9 buffs, and 132 new items. Now, the main mechanic that the Thrower class uses is a thing called Technique Scrolls. So Technique Scrolls are specialized thrower tools that allow the player to utilize unique offensive, defensive, and movement-related techniques. Techniques are activated by pressing the throwing technique key, which uses a special resource known as technique points. So technique points are generated by dealing throwing damage and will be lost outside of throwing combat. The player has 3 technique points by default, but it can increase up to 5 with certain throwing equipment. The scrolls start all the way in pre or hard mode from the Decoy scroll, and then increase in hard mode to the Blood Lotus, and eventually you will reach the Last Stand, which is the best scroll that you can get. So the next class that is part of the Thorium mod is the Healer class. Now, as the name suggests, the Healer class aims at providing health to allies, and it functions as a support role in a multiplayer setting. Now, only allied players can be healed, as NPCs do not receive the healing effect. So the Healer class is most useful when playing multiplayer, as the class's healing and support spell items focus on healing allies and do not deal damage to enemies, except for exceptions like the Life Surge and the Holy Staff. But other than that, it does feature its own damage type, which is the Radiant damage type. Now, the Healer class includes, as it is fully developed, 12 armor sets, 39 accessories, 33 buffs, and 145 items, a little bit more than the Thrower. Now, when it comes to types of mechanics, there are a whole bunch for the Healer class. So first up there is the Radiant damage, which is the damage type that a healer deals. And this is not the same as regular damage. This is only obtained through specific weapons and armors. And also there are potions that give you the radiant damage, like the glowing potion and dark intent. Now, the thing is that most of these mechanics are focused on allied playing, like for example the auras, which are temporary rings of various sizes that surround the owner's cursor when activated. And what they do, for example, is they apply beneficial effects to any allies within the aura. So you see, it does not benefit the casting user. It's mainly focused on when you're playing with allies. So for single player mode, the healer really isn't going to be beneficial. There's no reason to do it. A lot of staffs, a lot of beams and whatever. And overall, I'd say it's a pretty good addition to the game, especially if you want to focus on multiplayer. It is still a very cool class, and there are all kinds of healing effects. that you get, and all kinds of new weapons and stuff. And then last up, as a new addition for the complete classes in Terraria Thorium mode, is the Bard class. And this is actually the class that I chose to play in the playthrough that I'm currently doing. Now, what's really interesting about this class is that there's a bunch of different type of instruments. It's an instrument class. So you get brass instruments and percussion instruments, along with the string instruments and wind instruments, and of course the electronic instruments, but I think that's a little bit rarer. Now, as for mechanics, when it comes to the Bard class, there's only two, and that is symphonic damage and inspiration. So inspiration is almost the same as mana for the magic class. However, it's a little bit different since you use inspiration fragments, inspiration shards, and inspiration crystals. So inspiration does regenerate automatically, and although many of the Bard items are specific to inspiration, the fact that it's separate from mana makes a tempting choice for another player's class backup, so you can use it as a mixed class. And then for the symphonic damage, this is actually something really interesting and unique. So what you're basically doing is you are playing the instrument, and when you do that, a bunch of music notes is played. You can actually hear it and you can see the damage being dealt, and overall I think it's a really cool feature and it is really fun to play. Now, the Bard class is just as large as the other two in terms of new additions to the game, as it includes 9 armor sets, 56 accessories, 30 buffs, and 116 new items. Now, the last thing that I want to talk about when it comes to the Thorium mod and what I'm going to be looking at is, of course, the bosses. What kind of a playthrough would be complete without at least taking all of the new bosses into consideration? So the guide for the Thorium mod does at least make it very clear to you what the different bosses are, and how to fight them and what they drop, which is good. And you can also find a progression ladder for the bosses on the wiki for both pre-hard mode and hard mode. So the first boss that is added into the Thorium mod is the Grand Thunderbird, which is a tan and turquoise feathered bird. Now, it is summoned with a grand flare gun using storm flares during the day in the desert, and it has a delayed charge stack that can be halted with a melee strike, and will also summon storm hatchlings. So it is considered the easiest boss in the Thorium playthrough, and when you defeat the Grand Thunderbird, you will unlock the Desert Acolyte NPC. Now he's able to move in. So next up is the Queen Jellyfish, which is a large pink jellyfish that has the Diverman NPC trapped in its head. Now, this jellyfish can be summoned using the Jellyfish Resonator while the player is near the ocean during the day, but then it can be fought anywhere afterwards. Now, it does summon various types of royal jellies to attack the player while launching bubbles that send the player high into the air, and it will occasionally create a stationary cyclone to suck the player in. So obviously, once you have defeated the Queen Jellyfish, you will then unlock the Diverman NPC. Next up, you get Viscount, which is a royal bat that has a lot of health, and it is summoned by using 5 unholy shards at a blood altar in the cavern layer. So what the Viscount does is it flies above the player, launching them and ricocheting them with echo pulses, and it will also release multiple splashes of blood, stomp the ground, and stun the player. So the Viscount does actually summon life-stealing bitey babies, which turns players into helpless bats in expert mode. So luckily, that is not a problem if you are playing classic. So next up for the pre-hard mode bosses, there is the Granite Energy Storm, which is a granite themed boss. Then the Berry Champion, which is a Greek warrior, and of course the last one for the pre-hard mode bosses, the Star Sculptor, which is a flying saucer. And then of course after that there are the hard mode bosses. Now I'm not going to look into these bosses for now since I'm not there yet. I haven't made any progress in my world so far. So I'm going to continue looking into the finer details of Thorium once I have done a little bit more of the actual play. So of course there is still a bunch of new content that I need to cover on the Thorium mod. However, I'm not going to be doing it today because I want to make more videos on Thorium, but when I'm actually playing the game. So I'll talk about all of the new items and materials that I find, and of course the NPCs that move in when I'm actually playing the game so that I can show it to you as it happens. So anyway, that's it for today's video. Now I hope that you enjoyed and you have a lovely day, and I will see you in the next one.